we are very, very happy to present this unique travel experience. We are nurturing the legacy of two Gothic horror icons, Bram Stoker and Vincent Price. And today we'll be presenting the practical details of the trip, a quick itinerary go-through, and during the trip, you will have the occasion to hear Dacre Stoker and Victoria Price talking about a lot of very exciting subjects related to Dracula, to Bram Stoker, and to horror Gothic fiction. The exact agenda of the lectures, both by Dacre and by Victoria, hasn't been set yet, but expect very interesting talks like readings, movie nights, and a lot of other exciting infotainment. And you'll be informed about the scheduling of these things in due time. We will be going through a couple of things. We have some news, first of all. We still have available seats because we've upgraded our bus to a larger one, and that's very exciting and very good news to us. And our new registration deadline is February 28th. Throughout our presentation, as I was saying, we will be going through the itinerary real quick so that you know what to expect day by day on the tour. Gloria also has travel tips and a couple of checklists. And now, just to set you in the mood for this presentation and for the tour eventually, we have prepared a short teaser video with some nice pictures, just to set us in the mood. Gloria?
Yeah, it's more of a collage of images. It's not really a video, but it's nice with some nice background music. So let's just enjoy it for a little while, and then we go into the matter.
So just a short introduction about Romania. As you can see the agenda on the screen right now to see what we're going to go through today. Romania as a country is very smooth to travel to. It is very European. It's been a member of NATO since 2004, of EU since 2007, and Gloria will also touch upon passport necessities to EU member states and other technicalities. She's going to touch upon that a bit later. Dacre has traveled here more than 10, 11, 12 times. Maybe it would be cool to have a short insight, Dacre. What do you think about Romania as a traveling destination?
Yeah, I think, to sum it up, it really is a country of contrasts between, this urban centers that are, like many other cities, trying to become very modern, congested in traffic and so on, but some really incredibly beautiful, well-preserved old buildings, and obviously some not so well-preserved old buildings. We see a country that's emerging out of sort of its the heaviness, the heavy-handedness of the communist regime, and it's beginning to emerge to be really a first world country with incredibly good internet connections, great food, very fresh food everywhere you go. I personally love when we get out of the cities to get to the countrysides, the more, let's say, naive style of the country in the countrysides, because I just love great scenery. I love mountains, but also the villages, walking through villages. It's very safe everywhere I go. And it's surprisingly how many people do actually speak English, but also how many people love Westerners. So it's a very, welcoming country. And I've enjoyed every time I've gone, and trust me, I've gone all over this country in search of, not just Vlad Dracula's background and Count Dracula's background, but just in general, getting the vibe for the country. So yeah, that's my initial, views on where we're going to go all together. And I will say also, it's great having the locals along, because these guys can interpret our ways in and out of all kinds of fun situations.
Thank you, Dacre. And you made a very good point about being able to get by in Romania with English. A lot of people, I could say the majority of Romanians do speak English. If they don't speak English, they most probably speak another second language. You may be able to get by with a bit of Spanish or Italian, because Romanian is a Latin language at its root, so maybe that might come in handy. Also German, especially in Transylvania, in cities like Brașov, Sibiu, there's a big German-speaking community still, due to the German Saxon that were here in the Middle Ages, especially, but you'll hear about that part of the Transylvanian history as well. Now, I think it is the moment we have an overview on our itinerary on the tour. The tour will start on the 12th of June and will be ending on the 22nd of June. An overview of the route will be Bucharest, Sibiu, Sighișoara, Bistrița, Călimani National Park, and Bran, which is the location of the so-called Dracula's castle, actually Bran Castle, but more on that a bit later on. And then finally, we have our last night at a Bucharest airport hotel, so a hotel nearby the airport in Bucharest. In total, we will be driving about 800 miles, but they will be spread out throughout the entire itinerary. The total driving time, again split out through all the 11 days, will be about 20 hours, with 2 days that have a bit longer drives, but that's pretty much it. So approximately 20 hours on a tour that you have to be on a bus. I think that's rather reasonable, and especially since we have the comfy coach with the premium upgrade that we were able to get. Also, the stops that we will be having along the way will be very exciting, so it's not going to be like a long ride with nothing to see. We will try to make sure there are no boring parts, that you will have no time to be bored during this time, of course.
Just a quick say from me, so you don't misunderstand that we're going to sit 20 hours in a bus in a row. Of course not. Maybe this is quite obvious, but yeah, the longest drives per day are about 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, split into a few portions. So we make stops for coffee, make a longer stop for lunch, or for visits of fortified churches and things like this. So don't worry, you won't feel like you're sitting in a bus too long, because there's things happening all the time.
Yeah, exactly. And we, as I said, we will have our supersized Batmobile that will take us to these fantastic places. All right, are you ready to start with day one? Day one of our itinerary. Oh, this is how the Batmobile actually looks like, of course. Would have been nice to have some actual bats painted on it. But I took the liberty of photoshopping that a little bit. And yeah, let's start off with day one, your arrival day in Bucharest. We will be sending out a link after February 28th. You will be receiving a link from us to let us know your flight details and some other personalized things like diets, etc. This link with the form will be sent to you after February 28th. We were planning actually to have a transfer from the airport to the hotel at some point, but it's kind of complicated because everybody's coming in at such different hours. So we decided not to do that. But the Bucharest airport is quite close to Bucharest, about half an hour, 45 minutes maximum from the airport to town. And we highly recommend using Uber or Bolt, which are present in Bucharest. You can use them. They are price-worthy and they are safe and quick. They are a safe and quick way to get from the airport to the hotel. After your arrival and check-in at the hotel, there will be free time in the afternoon, and we will provide you with tips for visits in your free time, and also with some tips for restaurants in case you arrive earlier or much earlier than our meet and greet time, which is at 6 p.m. in the lobby of our hotel, which is the Europa Royal Hotel, right in the heart of the old town of Bucharest, basically next door to Curtea Veche, which is the old court of Vlad the Impaler, of Vlad Țepeș, of Vlad Dracula. Sadly under restoration as we speak, so we will have to use our imagination a little bit when we have a look at the courtyard. It's right now covered with scaffolding, and they are renovating it to bring it back to its medieval charm. But just the knowledge that we will be spending our first night just a few steps away from where Vlad actually founded this building is good enough for a welcome evening. By the way, a list of all of our hotels with addresses and their phone numbers will be sent out to you soon, so you also have it at hand upon your arrival. Back to the first day, when we meet at 6 o'clock in the evening, we will have a short guided promenade in Bucharest, pass by Curtea Veche, the old court of Vlad the Impaler, as I said. After the walk, we will be having our first dinner together in a beautiful historic restaurant, which is also just a few steps away. On the first evening, it's actually very concentrated on the old town of Bucharest. This historical restaurant that you can see up here in the left hand corner. Right, so we had our first evening in Bucharest, and on day 2 it's already time to get on our way towards Sibiu. But we have a full day ahead of us until we reach Sibiu. We have an early start on this morning, so we'll be leaving about 8 a.m. We'll start off with a panoramic coach tour of Bucharest on our way driving out. We will have a photo stop at the Parliament, or as you might know it, the People's Palace, the one also depicted in the photo. After this, we continue our way towards Curtea de Argeș, where we will have a short stop, actually, just to get acquainted to Romania's recent royal history. From Curtea de Argeș, we continue onwards to the Transfăgărășan Road. The Transfăgărășan Road is actually quite famous because on it we can find the Poienar Citadel, which was actually the citadel, or the castle, how shall I name it, from
Fortress.
Fortress, thank you. Thank you. The fortress from which Vlad the Impaler actually ruled for a while. We will have our lunch at the foothill of this citadel with a view on it, and we will have a short drive on these serpentines of the Transfăgărășan Road. The Transfăgărășan Road is closed officially right now. The Romanian authorities have set the opening on June 15th. So we're actually there a little bit earlier. This nevertheless can change according to weather conditions, etc. So there is a high risk of snowfall in the area. So that's why for the moment, officially, the Transfăgărășan will be closed until June 15th. But we can still go up to a point where it is not closed and where we will have our lunch. And here we will also be having Dacre's first talk. So on the second day, we will already have a little bit of information from Dacre during our first lunch. Then we will continue our drive towards Sibiu, which is where I live, which is where I am right now. We will check in at our hotel, very central, just a couple of minutes away from the old town. And here we gather up after the check-in and walk together to our dinner restaurant, which is a traditional Romanian restaurant called Crama Ileana. That was day 2, and we go on through day 3. Here we have a guided tour of the town of 1,000 eyes, as I like to call it, of Sibiu, my city. And we will touch upon Emily Gerard, the famous Scottish writer, and some latest discoveries about the time that she was living in Sibiu. Dacre, do you want to add something here about Emily?
Yeah, let me just say, I will be bringing along these images of Bram Stoker's notes and go into detail at some of our gatherings. But I'll just tell you this, Emily Gerard is probably the most important resource that Bram came across in the London Library, because she was a specialist in writing. She was a Scottish lady very interested in superstition in Scotland. And when she married a fellow and moved to Nora's hometown of Sibiu, she became very interested in Transylvanian superstitions. You can see on the screen, Bram took copious notes from her essays in a magazine and later in a book, which I will be giving you some of the important parts of what pieces of information did he get out of her writing and how did they make their way into Dracula. I find it really interesting, these superstitions, their origins, and we'll be sharing a lot of the origins of these origins with you guys along the way. What I think is so cool, we're always into discoveries, and between Nora and Gloria, they are working very hard with local authorities to actually find out more about where she actually lived in Sibiu. Obviously, records are hard from those days, but these ladies are closing in on it. So we might have more information by the time we get there, but certainly wherever you are, we're going to talk about her impact on Bram Stoker's writing and him placing the novel Dracula in Transylvania because of her and her writing.
Of course, all the superstitions are gathered in the Carpathian horseshoe. I needed to paraphrase that. Thank you very much, Dacre. So after this tour of Sibiu, we will be having a couple of hours free time in Sibiu for further exploring, or for shopping. Sibiu has also a very nice shopping area. And I've chosen this picture that you can see on the screen on purpose, because it is a picture of Banca Transilvania, right in the old town of Sibiu. Yes, we do have a Bank of Transylvania, Banca Transilvania. I didn't put it there just for the fun of it, but because I wanted to underline the fact that there are quite a few ATMs in Romania. So they are very popular, so to say. You can find them mostly anywhere. It's easy to use your credit card or debit card to get money from these ATMs. So you don't necessarily have to have a bunch of cash with you all the time. We would also highly recommend buildings like this that have the ATMs on the inside, so like banks, etc. Don't worry about that. We'll always be able to point the ATMs when we're together on tour. I just wanted to make a mention of that if you're thinking about cash that you need to carry. Let us get to the next point, because on this day, where we have the town of 1,000 eyes and where I live, we have a bonus excursion. And this is, we're offering you to travel to the iconic Gothic Corvinus castle that you can see here in the picture on the corner on the left-hand side. This castle was built by John Hunyadi. So we have a drive to Corvinus Castle with a stop in a medieval town that is very close to Gloria and my heart. This is called Mühlbach, and I was born there. We used to live there. Our parents still do. We will have a stop there for lunch, included instead of day 4. This medieval town is one of the 7 citadels from Siebenbürgen, the 7 citadels of Transylvania. And then after this lunch stop, we move on to Corvinus. Just an observation, the castle visit ticket will not be included because you may decide if you want to go inside or not. If not, there's plenty to do outside the castle. As you can see, you can take photos, you can just walk around. There's a couple of souvenir shops, cafes around there, and just be there for the view. If you wish to visit the castle on the inside, we can assist, of course, with purchasing the tickets. And this information will also be included in the form that we will send you after February 28th. The cost of visiting the castle on the inside is of 40 lei, which is approximately 10 euros, or the equivalent of $11 US. All right, so after this excursion to the Corvin Castle in Hunedoara, we will make our way back to Sibiu. But on the way back, we stop in a little village called Sibiel, and in here we will have a shepherd family dinner with local produce, with beautiful Romanian foods, very traditional, very typical village, Transylvanian Romanian village. All right, let's move on to day 4, which is Sighișoara. You might have seen it, you might have visited, you might have heard of it, if anything else. We depart to Sighișoara from Sibiu. We make a short stop in Mediaș. Does that sound familiar? Golden Mediaș. The wine in the novel, actually, the name has its roots here in the town of Mediaș. After the short stop in Mediaș, we continue on to Sighișoara, where we have a guided walking tour. Afterwards, we will check in at the hotel. And here I want to make a point about the luggage, because on all our hotels, we will not have porterage. So basically, everybody is in charge of their own piece of luggage. So pack light, right? But this hotel, you can even see it in the picture. It's the green building, the further green building up here in the picture. That is our hotel. And as you can probably tell, there's no way to get a coach up there. And Sighișoara is located on the top of the hill. So in this case, they will be bringing our luggage up to the hotel with a minivan. After the tour and after we check in at the hotel, there will be some free time for lunch. Of course, we will make recommendations for you and things that you have to explore. There's a lot of interesting museums and expos and things to see in Sighișoara. After that, after our free time, when the clock strikes 6 p.m., we meet for our dinner in the house where Vlad Dracula was allegedly born. So dinner at Dracula birth house. After our dinner, we have a movie night, the first one on the tour. We have a movie night together in the cellar of our hotel. So that's a wrap up on day 4, and let us move on to day number 5. Oh, picture of me at Dracula's birth house serving some cookies or something, and the picture of Dacre in front of the very same restaurant, Casa Vlad Dracu, the place where Vlad Dracula was born in the mid-1400s. All right, so wrap up day 4 and we move on to day number 5. This is the day we will be driving through beautiful Transylvanian countryside, and then we will enjoy some free time for lunch on our own in the city of Târgu Mureș. And after the lunch stop, we will continue our journey towards a small place called Lechința, where we will get to taste some local wines. And regardless of the name, the majority of Transylvanian wines are white wines. We can cheer a glass of Golden Mediaș. We will then continue our drive towards Bistritz, where our accommodation will be at a hotel bearing the same name as the one from the novel, Corana de Aur, or Goldene Krone, the Golden Crown. The name of this modern hotel that you can see here in the picture is, of course, inspired by Bram's book. So wrap up on day 5, drive through beautiful Transylvanian countryside, then free time in Târgu Mureș, then we continue our drive towards Bistrița, have a stop for local wine tasting, and find our accommodation in the evening in Bistrița. Day 6 is a very interesting one. Not that the others aren't, but for me, it's one of the most exciting things happening on the tour. We depart from Bistrița and we head towards Mount Izvorul area in Căliman National Park. And we will stop at what you might recognize as Borgo Pass, which is known to us and to the locals as Pasul Bârgăului or Tihuța. And we will have some amazing views from up top. We will have, just like I did a couple of years ago. I'm a bit afraid of heights. That's why I was holding on to dear life to those railings. But we will have amazing views from up top and also get to have a look at the Orthodox monastery and church that are at this Borgo Pass. And here we have a map that actually pictures Jonathan Harker's route by train. Will be not on the exact same route, but you'll see how many points of it we will be able to reach during our travels. Dacre, if there's anything you want to say about this map or about the route that we will be taking. No.
Well, I'll be bringing a copy of this along, but this is actually a copy of the map that Bram used for plotting out Dracula. It was folded in the back of one of the books. I bought the book, I photocopied the map, and I drew on it. You can see the route that Harker took from Klausenberg to Bistrița, and in Bistrița, he's heading up to Borgo Pass in a carriage. We're going up in a nice coach when you get to Borgo Pass. And I'll just tell you this, as Nora said, there really is something called the Borgo Pass. Bram didn't make that up. It sounds perfect for the movie, but it's listed as that on the map. It does have other local names as well. And then as we get closer, we're going to get very close by coach to where we're going to stay, and then do some hiking ourselves, which we'll chat about later, to get actually to the site of the fictional castle Dracula.
Yes, exactly. Because once we get to the Borgo Pass, we'll have some lunch, and then we will find our accommodation nearby, which is Casa Răzeșului. It's a very beautiful rustic place where we will enjoy some readings from the novel and a nice evening around the bonfire, commiserating with Jonathan Harker's arrival at the Count's castle. All right. Ooh, I got the chills when I said that. Right. So day number 7, Căliman National Park. On this fateful Sunday, it is time for us to go in search for the fictional location of Dracula's castle. And in the morning, we depart for a hike up to discover the exact coordinates. More on this we will learn from Dacre as we move along. And just to let you know some practical things about this day, this is a full outdoorsy experience. It's a mild hike, but still a hike, and it includes the discovery of purely fantastic views and well, as we will see, really historic or literally literary locations. And
just to if you mentioned the fact that it's a full outdoors day, of course, when you have a fully outdoors day, you need to think about the weather. So it's weather permitting. Of course, if we have a snowstorm or a rainstorm or whatever kind of storm or anything that may endanger our safety, of course, we don't do this. So it will be full, or no, it doesn't even have to do with safety. If it's uncomfortable, we won't do it. But of course, you should be prepared with, and we're going to get to that when we go through the checklist. You should be prepared with a lightweight wind jacket, waterproof light jacket or so.
So of course we don't mean the 3 drops of rain and we're not going, but just to have in mind that it is weather permitting.
Yeah.
I think our next slide is actually of Dacre at the location with the novel, and we also have a plaque Dacre, would you like to add anything on the plaque?
Yeah, I mean, go back to the other slide if you would. So this is the plaque. It's now on that rock that you see right there. This is in the very general vicinity of where the coordinates that Hans de Roost discovered in the Dracula notes that put us in this area for the end of the novel, and also very close to the site of fictional Castle Dracula. So you can see, as the ladies just mentioned, this was a nice day for me, but still I was prepared. I actually had with me rainwear as well, and I wore these kind of light hiking shoes. Not all of it is going to, look like those rocks. We're not walking. We're not rock climbing, folks. We're actually walking, about 2 hours, up on fields and meadows, some logging roads. When you get to the very top, there is that little rocky area right there. So it's not that kind of rock climbing if you're worried about being unstable. I do bring a hiking stick with me, one of those ones that telescopes really small, just because I've got 2 artificial hips now. So I always like to make sure that, I've got good stability. But we'll have lots of time when we get to the top. I believe, I don't want to take Nora's itinerary, but I think we're going to have our lunch up there that the guy that runs the bed and breakfast will bring by vehicle. We're also obviously going to be able to have lots of great photo ops up there. It's a wonderful place. The scenery from the top of this thing is absolutely incredible. But we'll talk a little bit later about getting prepared for long hikes like that, and we'll be able to take some pictures by this time.
After the hike, we will return at our accommodation, and in the evening it's movie night time. And by the way, movie night, I will let Gloria make a short introduction to the trailer we're about to watch. And yeah, Gloria.
Yeah, this is a very good. Sorry, I pushed the button too early, and sorry for interrupting you, Dacre. It wasn't meant to interrupt you, but it's a very good trailer. It's a very good introduction to what we actually talk about during this day, because this is the location. These are the coordinates of the location of the fictional castle. So you will just see a very short trailer of Dacre's production from 2 years ago, right? Almost 3 years ago. And we will try to show this film at a certain point during the trip.
My name is Dacre Stoker. I am the great-grandnephew of Bram Stoker. I'm on a quest to find the location of my uncle's fictional Castle Dracula. Come with me to Transylvania, the land beyond the forest, deep in the Carpathian Mountains, near the Borgo Pass, the Kalamani National Park. My journey brought me here, but not before I made many stops along the way. I've analyzed the Dracula typescript owned by Paul Allen's estate in Seattle, Washington. I have searched through the Stoker archives at Trinity College and seen the same books that Bram read at Marsh's Library in Dublin, Ireland. I've visited Cruden Bay, Scotland, where Bram wrote most of Dracula, and I've strolled through Whitby, the seaside town in the UK that so inspired Bram that he set chapters 6, 7, and 8 there. I've been to the London Library and combed through the books Bram used for his Dracula research, where information from these books introduced the connection between volcanoes, vampirism, and the devil. His Dracula research notes from the Rosenbach Museum in Philadelphia actually provided map coordinates that a Dutch scholar deciphered, which helped to direct me here. I've assembled a team of local experts in folklore and superstitions to assist me in what I hope will be my final stop in solving one of Dracula's most enduring mysteries, the location of his fictional castle.
And this was a very good view about how the hike will look like. And also, if you hear this kind of dog howling during the night in the first 2 nights in Romania, don't worry, it will disappear because you will get used to it in the future. It happens on the first night, maybe. So don't worry about that.
first and second, because in Bucharest you might not be able to hear it the next night. Well, we'll have time to talk about all these little details. Yes, we do have wolves. Yes, we do have bats in Transylvania. Moving on. We are already in day 8 of our tour, and this is the day where we drive through Sekei land. And I'm going to give you guys a quote from the novel, and you might remember, "We Sekeis have a right to be proud, for in our veins flows the blood of many brave races who fought as the lion fights for lordship." And you're going to see this attitude actually throughout all our time in Sekei land. They are hardworking people, they are proud people, they maintain their image of themselves by doing the right things and maintaining their properties. So you're going to see that it's really, really beautiful. So we will be driving for quite some time on this day from the Borgo Pass to Borgo Pass area to Sekler land, where we will have our lunch at a restaurant owned by a local brewery. I told you they are very hardworking. They do a lot of amazing things, like, for instance, beer. And we will have our lunch on that day at a local brewery called Chikishe. And no, this is not product placement. I really am a fan, and I almost always have Chikishe in my home. It's one of the best beers that Romania has to offer. And look, they even have this chili flavored beer, which is very nice, sweet and spicy. Looking forward to that. Chikishe is actually one of the tastiest beers in Romania and one of the most powerful brands in Romania and in Hungary. Since you probably know that the language that the Sekei speak is Hungarian, so it's a Hungarian minority from central Romania. Bram was actually quite a lot inspired by Charles Bonner's book about Sekei land's natural resources and its mineral water. So maybe that's why the beer is so tasty, because they have so many natural springs of mineral water. And to move on to our next point we are going to visit on our tour, perhaps you've heard about the Transylvanian fortified churches. We'll get to see one on our way to Bran. After the visit of the fortified church, we make our way towards Bran, which is the very small village that is famous for what we know to be the inspiration of Bram Stoker when describing the exterior of Count Dracula's castle. We will have free time for dinner with the usual recommendations, and then we will find our accommodation at the boutique hotel Casa din Bran. All rooms are different. It's a very beautiful hotel, just a few steps, as you can see from the picture, just a few steps away from the actual castle. All right, Bran, very quaint village. But on day 9, we will take a day trip to the nearby located Brașov. It's a bigger city in the area. And from Bran to Brașov, we only have a short drive, and then we explore the city of Brașov in the footsteps of Vlad Dracula and the love of his life, Katarina Ziegel, who lived just in the heart of this German-Saxon old city center. After the tour of Brașov, we will have free time for lunch and exploring on your own. Again, Brașov is very nice for just having a drink on one of the terraces outside or shopping. It has amazing shops. So we will get to spend some free time there. And then afterwards, we drive back to our hotel in Bran. And we actually planned this specifically, so we have some free time to get ready for our castle visit. Maybe some of you want to do some cosplaying, maybe you want to dress up, maybe you want to take your red and black cape, put it on, and that is a good opportunity to do so, because in the afternoon we have our guided visit at the castle. Bran Castle, which was not owned by Count Dracula nor by Vlad the Impaler, but by Queen Marie of Romania. And yes, but the exterior, as I was saying, served as an inspiration for Bram when describing it in his novel. Dacre, if there's anything you would like to add on that, I know both you and I we love these sketches that Bram was able to identify in these books.
Yeah, no, just, again, this is what we know from his research that he had a chance to look at. And it's my my theory that he looked at these, and the way he described the exterior of Castle Dracula in the book, I think came to him by looking at these two sketches. There were no other castles that I could find in any of the books that he had at his disposal. So it makes sense that these are the ones he looked at for the exterior. The interior is a whole nother castle that's in Scotland. So Bram merged these castles together and then put them, in a different location up in the top of the country, that place where we just came from.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so much, Dacre. This castle that is on the very edge of a terrible precipice. A stone falling from the window would fall 1,000 feet without touching anything. That sound familiar? All right, moving on to the evening we get to spend at Bram. If you choose to dress up, of course, it's not compulsory or anything. You do as you wish, but it would be a good idea if you want to do so, because after the visit, we will also be having a farewell dinner together. So it's I use up any occasion to have a good time, to have a party like atmosphere. All right, moving on to day 10. We will be having a day with strong Hollywood vibe. Why? Because as we leave Bran on our way towards Bucharest, we will be passing by Râșnov, which is a medieval citadel placed on top of a hill nearby. Many films were shot there, especially medieval films, of course. And as we make our way towards Bucharest, we also have a short stop at Cantacuzino Castle, which might look familiar to you if you've watched the Netflix series Wednesday, the new Netflix series. The exterior of Cantacuzino Castle is actually Nevermore Academy. And after a short photo, coffee, or enjoy the view stop, we will continue through the majestic Southern Carpathian Mountains. And in the very heart of these mountains, we will have our next Hollywood stop, which is Peles Castle, the summer residence of the Romanian royal family, and the filming location for quite some movies, including also the Netflix hit A Christmas Prince and its sequels. We'll be having lunch nearby the castle. It's an included lunch. And as we will be leaving the mountains behind, we head towards Snagov Monastery, a remote abbey on a lake island where Vlad Țepeș, the Impaler, was allegedly buried. In the evening, after such an exciting day, we arrive at our airport hotel. We have a free evening. The hotel has a spa available for a small fee, and we just pack, take it easy, and get ready for our flights on the next day. The hotel that we will be staying at has a shuttle service. They go on the hour and at the half an hour, and depending on your flight, then you can take one of these shuttle buses and make your way towards the airport. Some final notes. This was our 11 days grand tour of Romania itinerary, and we'll be able to see that we will be traveling through all three parts of Romania, all three historical regions, Transylvania, Moldavia, and Wallachia. Now let's move on to a couple of more practical tips, which Gloria has divided into 3 parts. And I hope I didn't take up too much of your time. Thank you so very much for your attention, Gloria.
Thank you so much, Nora. Yeah, it's very good that we went through the whole itinerary, so we know what to expect. And you pointed at certain important things that we are going to repeat just quickly now, because we've already talked a little bit about hiking shoes and so on, and hiking attire and what's important about other aspects. So I made a plan of before the trip, during the trip, and after the trip. And the most consistent part will be before the trip. At this stage, we need to prepare. We need to already think of what we're going to take with us, important things about passports and documents that we need for traveling and so on. And then during the trip, you will be assisted by us a lot. So you don't need to think very much about it, but it's good to have it in the back of your minds. And after the trip, it's at this stage, just a little bit of formalities. So, and of course, we appreciate it if you share it with your friends. I think you've already done that, especially Victoria and Peter. We're very grateful for you telling the world about this amazing tour. And yeah, now let's go through at this stage before the trip. So booking, as Nora said, we have a new deadline, a prolonged deadline, registration in the online form, which is in the link in the chat if you want to share it, or if you haven't booked already and you wish to book. Then we have the updated program also, which is now online. We have a migration of the content of our current site to another place. So that's why we're a little bit in between sites right now. So we have a link which is actually a PDF for the moment, but it's the most updated program with all the changes that Nora mentioned, with the bonus excursion and the little switch of lunches. And then regarding the final, the booking deposit, we thank you, all of you who already paid it. Those of you who wish to book and will pay, please note again that this is non-refundable, which brings me to the insurance part. Be covered already before you make the payment of the booking deposit, because as I mentioned, it's not non-refundable. So call your insurance company first, sign the insurance, or make sure that you're covered for both the tour and the flight. The final payment will happen sometime during April. We will send the invoices at the beginning of April, and it will become non-refundable after May 5th. So bear that in mind as well. When it comes to insurance, both our guests so far and ourselves are very pleased, very happy with the Allianz, for example, as an insurance company. There are quite a few others, of course, depending on whether you're in the UK or you in the US. If you want to compare policies, you can always go on the comparison sites, like, for example, Insure My Trip. And for the EU citizens, there is this EU health insurance card, that the blue one on the picture, that makes, in case of medical care, makes all the things smoother. But medical care for tourists is anyway very good, so you don't need to worry if you don't have this card. Only EU citizens have it, and it's just for making communication between hospitals throughout the EU easier or smoother. So that being said, we move on to, from insurance and medical, being prepared for medical happenings. Hopefully not necessary, but it's good to travel prepared, not worried, but prepared. So the recommended vaccines for Romania, for entry to Romania, there is no requirements, so no entry requirements when it comes to vaccination, but there are recommended vaccines. So the routine vaccines like polio, chickenpox, and so on, the ones that you get as a kid. And then there's, of course, the COVID vaccine, which is recommended. There are recommendations for hepatitis A and B, measles, tick-borne encephalitis, and rabies, but all these are for specific parts of population. So, for example, rabies vaccine is recommended to those who work with directly with wildlife, like biologists, veterinarians, and so on, and travel to Romania. In our case, it's not the case. So maybe there are veterinarians or biologists in the group, but we won't be working with wildlife. Just as a little parenthesis, bats, for example, carry rabies, but bats in our tour will be merely symbolic. So and we also donate actually, we also have this social responsibility part of our company, donating to a little nursery of bats in the neighborhoods of Bistrica. But that's we won't come in contact with those bats, so no worries about that. But bear in mind, and now we're just talking generalities when it comes to the recommended vaccines, but check with your vaccination central. Also, and check the updated cdc.gov for the US and government, UK government health recommendations and the entry recommendations for Romania just before you travel as well, because there can be updates. And then also remember to pack your important or daily medication if you have such. When packing, make sure you have your doctor's prescription with the package, with the medication, which should be in its original package as well. And that's to make sure that you won't have to leave it behind when, in case you get a luggage control. Also, it's always good to have a doctor checkup just about a month before you travel, just to make sure that everything is in order. Now, regarding the flight, Nora just mentioned in the beginning, I'm repeating it, fly to Bucharest. If you haven't booked your flight yet, land latest 3 p.m. That's, of course, it gives you a bit of a margin. We start the day actually at 6 p.m. But if you land at 3, you need a bit of time to get to the hotel, to change, to maybe have a bite or so. Yeah, and fly back also from Bucharest. So we start and end the tour in Bucharest, but not at the same hotel. The last hotel would be close to the airport, whilst the first is central. You should take off earliest on the 22nd of June at 7 a.m. or later if you wish to rest more. But if you find a convenient flight around 7-8 a.m. it's a good time. Try to keep next last day, so the 21st, we still are on the road, so we arrive to the hotel at around 5-6 p.m. so it's not a good idea to depart then. So book your flight for the 22nd in the morning at the earliest. Once again, Nora mentioned the Bolt Uber transfer to the hotel on the first day. There's also a public bus going if you are astute enough to, well, it's a very good and safe public bus, but if you get to a whole new city, maybe the first thing you want to do is maybe to just catch a Bolt, even if it's a little bit more expensive than a public bus or train. But there are several possibilities to get into city from the airport in Bucharest. Yeah, and as Nora mentioned, the last hotel provides this free airport shuttle at departure. Right, from flight to money.
Hey, Gloria, I've got a question for you, please, for the sake of the group. And I may not have seen all of the information because I'm on the tour with you, but you've moved the deadline, the new deadline, to the end of February. Are you recommending the people that are here on this Zoom call and anyone who's already signed up, should they buy their flights now, or do they need to wait for the deadline?
Very good question, Dacre. Thank you. Yes, everyone who has already paid their deposit and got the confirmation from us that yes, the deposit is paid and your seat is confirmed, they should book. You can start booking. It's if you want to make sure that you got it right, yeah, please do drop us a line, a short email with a question, are these flights okay? Yeah, of course we can reply that. But if you want to go ahead and book the flight, it's a go to book the flight. And the fact that we've prolonged the deadline doesn't affect those who have already booked. So you're good to go.
That's exactly what we needed to hear. The extension is simply extra people to fill up the extra seats. Exactly. This trip is a go, so get your tickets. Okay, yeah, thank you.
So we just yeah, thank you, Dacre. We just wanted to give the chance because now we have such quite a pretty large coach, and we wanted to give the chance to more people to sign up and not keep it closed while we have the space, and the more the merrier, of course. So yeah, thank you for that question, Dacre. Go ahead and book. as soon as you've booked the flight, as soon as you've got our confirmation and you've paid the deposit. So we're sure that you're on the tour. And of course, as soon as your insurance is cleared, so you're in clear with your what's covered by your insurance. Right, and then regarding money, yeah, we have the currency lei in Romania. That's what we call it in everyday life, but you will see probably on price tags, you will see RON as well. Also, when you want to exchange or you want to check the currency rate, you will see this RON. RON or lei are the same thing. So if you don't get confused by the two denominations, it's the same currency. It's the Romanian currency. It's just that RON is the currency code for Romania, and lei is the actual name of it. So it's like USD is RON and lei is dollar. And the currency rate at this point is for one USD, you have about 4.5 RON. Don't get stressed about changing or exchanging money into RON or into lei from home. We usually don't recommend that. Of course, if you really feel at peace of mind doing that, go ahead. But it's usually pretty lousy currency rates when you do that before the trip. The best thing to do, and you don't need the currency, you don't need the cash before you land in Bucharest. And when you land in Bucharest, you have 2-3 ATMs functional at the airport right as you get off the plane. So you can withdraw as soon as you land. And yeah, it's a good idea to maybe withdraw not so large amounts, but not so small amounts either, because then you will have to pay for this withdrawal fee, which differs from bank to bank. So it could be a good idea that you call your bank and check, first of all, the withdrawal limit, so that you don't get stuck and you cannot withdraw because you're abroad. Some banks have this safety feature that they don't allow withdrawal of larger amounts than ... So check that with your bank. And also you could ask them as well what the withdrawal fee is if you don't know that. There are ATMs or bancomat, as they are called in Romania, pretty much all over the place, as Nora mentioned as well. Avoid the independent ones, like, for example, Euromoney. These kind of bankomats or cash machines that are in a hotel or randomly not in connection to a bank, because these have pretty bad currency rates. So that being said, Nora also mentioned when you go and withdraw money from an ATM, it's good if you have the possibility and pass by a bank to go inside and withdraw from the inside of the bank, because it's always like, for example, in the evenings when the bank is closed, you can still open by using your credit or debit card, placing it on the little reader at the entrance of this bank, and there is this kind of lobby where you have the ATM machine inside, which is more protected than withdrawing outdoors, especially in evenings. But Romania is really a safe country, so you shouldn't be worried about these sort of things. But just to let you know, if you have the choice, it's always, of course, more peace of mind if you do it like that. And wear a money belt. Nora hates money belts, but I think they are very good. So try to have your money under supervision, because Romania is a safe country. It's not more different to travel to Romania than traveling to Germany or Italy or wherever else in the EU. But there are, of course, cases where things can happen to anyone and anywhere.
I don't hate them, I just find them fashionably challenging.
But you don't see them, you put it under your shirt. Of course, if you have a very tight dress, it's more difficult.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So this being said about the hard values of getting prepared, let's also go a little bit through the soft values and get in the mood. Here are some recommendations for literature before the trip. and also some films. We will list these as well in writing, so you will receive after the 28th of February. We will send more information, more checklists, and more reading for you to do before the trip. But just to go quickly through what we find as most interesting is, of course, reading or rereading the novel Dracula. It will be a good idea, and maybe bring a light copy of it along so you can read it as we go. Then Dacre Stoker's prequel and sequel of the novel, like Dracula the Undead and Dracula. And of course, Victoria Price's daughter's biography. I am starting to read it, so I'm really looking forward to that. And Victoria, if you wish to recommend any other reading, please.
Or movies or anything.
Movies, yeah, exactly. I was going to get to the movies as well. Sure.
Oh, right now?
Oh, no, no, not necessarily right now, but we can make a list of this.
Yeah, we'll make a list, and Peter will help too.
Yeah, exactly. Peter, thank you so much for being the film location expert on the tour. Regarding other kind of literature, apart from the Dracula or Vincent Price related one, to get acquainted with Romanian history and culture and social reality, there are a few books that we selected, like, for example, 2 books about period or the time during World War II, Atene Palace by R.G. Waldeck, an American journalist who spent quite a lot of time in Bucharest, and I Live Again, which is very symbolically called like that on a Dracula tour, but it wasn't premeditated. It's actually written by Princess Ileana of Romania, the last owner of the castle, the Bran Castle communists took over in 1948. It's a very interesting book, that one as well. And then also a book by a very respected historian, Romanian historian, Neagu Juvara, from Vlad the Impaler to Dracula the Vampire. And the book mentioned by Nora by Charles Bonner, which is really like a very easy to read. It's like a travel blog from the 1800s, but really very, very light to read. And it was one of the inspiration books for Bram Stoker while writing his novel, Dracula. So, and the films, as I mentioned, of course, the Dracula classics, the Vincent Price classics would be good to, we will watch some of them probably during the tour as well, but if you want to get in the mood, start watching them now. And then there's documentaries, Wild Carpathia, The King Who Tricked Hitler. We can make a list of all these with the respective links so you can easily find them. And from getting in the mood, getting in shape for the hike. It's not a difficult hike, just as Dacre mentioned. It's not climbing on rocks or anything like that. But in total, as Nora said, it's a day outdoors. We will be walking for about 2.5 to 3 hours uphill. It's not it's quite a mild inclination slope, so it's not a difficult hike, but it becomes long when you spend the whole day doing that. And then stop for the lunch on the mountaintop, sort of picnic lunch, and then getting back for about 2.5 hours downhill again to go back to our point of departure of the hike. Then also Nora mentioned that we will be responsible for our own luggage. So pack light and maybe check whether you can walk around with your luggage comfortably. We have cobblestones in many towns in Transylvania, like pretty much in every little town in Europe. So think about that as well when you need to pack, and you will have to drag your suitcase, maybe on a bit of a cobblestone paved street. The town walks will not be a challenge, about 1.5 hours for every town walk. We won't have town walks every day, but pretty much almost every second day. And then, yeah, a very hands-on trick or tip, get your hiking shoes ready. If you don't have them, buy them and wear them now, like wear them with the same socks that you're going to wear them on the hike. Of course, you might want to wash them in between, but yeah, you get your training in exactly the same outfit as we're going to do it in June. Of course, weather permitting, because now in Sweden we have -2 degrees, so I'm not going to wear exactly the same things as I'm going to wear in June. But yeah, just this idea of practicing walking, maybe 30 minutes a day, just to get in shape, and then maybe try to do a longer hike every week, about 2 hours or so. So to sum it up, a quick checklist for the things important right now at this stage: insurance, booking deposit paid, flight booked, and passport. Check your validity. For entry to Romania, generally for US and EU member states, it's 3 months beyond the date of departure, but please check also particularities and do ask if you have any doubts, or if you don't, if you're not sure about these details, because they are very important. And allow sometimes, if you need to fix a new passport, allow about 6 weeks, sometimes more, to have your passport before leaving. Vaccination and health. Once again, we don't require COVID vaccination any longer, because it's not required by the authorities, but we strongly recommend it for your enhanced safety and for the peace of mind of yourselves and of the fellow travelers and of the staff. It's good to have it, and it can always change. I mean, it can be readdressed, or COVID, hopefully not, but it can come back in one way or another, and then some requirements or some regulations or restrictions might be in place again, and then you want to be prepared. And then it's recommended to have the debit card instead of a credit card, but have both with you, but use mainly the debit card, because the withdrawal fee is lower in that case. For the packing list, just a quick go through. I said pack light, think layers, casual clothes mostly. Maybe you want to have, of course, you should have your lightweight fleece or water resistant wind jacket or so. 1 pair of comfy shoes with very good traction for the hikes. And then maybe you want to have a pair of nicer shoes, but like very light ones. Don't bother about high heels or so, because we won't be needing them so much, especially for Dracula's castle. No good idea to wear high heels on that slope that takes you up to the castle entrance. Have a sun hat with you, have sunglasses, medication, as I said, have your prescription with you as well, have a mini first aid kit as well with you. Your vampire attire is optional, but if you enjoy carrying it with you and using it for the final dinner, of course, it will be lovely to take some nice pictures in front of the castle in that. And some very good or very important thing to think about is adapters, both for the UK and the US. You need adapters, and it's Romania has the standard European voltage, which is 220 230 actually volts. So this is what the ports look like, and there's going to be some USB ports in some of the hotels, but not all of them, so don't rely on that. Have an adapter to be sure. A bit about the weather. When we talk clothes, expect quite warm weather in June, but there can be rainfall. Anything between 14 degrees and 27 degrees is normal. Sometimes it can be warmer, very seldom colder than 14 degrees during the nights. And yeah, that's about the weather. Now, regarding, this is all before the trip preparations. During the trip, don't worry too much now. We will have an eye on you, and you have us during, or at least one of us during the entire trip, and we will provide you with lists of recommended restaurants, with a program with all the exact times when we start and so on, so you don't have to think about those details. Once again, Bolt and Uber, preferably to taxi. We will remind you about that while on the way as well. Yeah, watch your belongings. Yeah, we had a question about laundry. There will be laundry service available in some hotels. The best option will probably be Sibiu and Bistritz. Sibiu, we have 2 nights, so we have more time for this kind of service, and Bistritz also we have a little bit more hours in that hotel than generally in the others. So yeah, save Nora's phone number already. We will create a WhatsApp group later on, and then you should request to be added to that WhatsApp group so we can easily communicate during the tour. Regarding phone calls. You can call your mobile phone provider or your mobile plan provider and ask what the best solution would be just in your specific case. But we will try to stick to WhatsApp as much as possible, as long as Wi-Fi is available along the way. And then regarding gratuities, yes, we get this question quite often. And in Europe, it's not like in the US with the tip, it's not compulsory. We don't include the gratuities in our package tour price, but we will help out with tipping the waiters in the right way. So what we will do is we will circulate an envelope after every meal, and we then give that envelope to the waiters. And if you're happy with the service, when you go on your own having lunch or dinner, you can always tip the waiter if you're happy. And the good idea is a 10%, but it's not expected. I mean, it could be expected, it is expected, but it's not compulsory. This is during the trip, just a few quick tips. And after the trip, I mentioned that we will have a video documentary. We will have a professional video photographer at some points during the tour, and he will film and take pictures. And then of course, we won't take close-ups or intrude in your personal space, but we will be visible on most of the videos and pictures, and some of the pictures, of course, we would like to share. So if you don't want us to photograph just specifically you, please let us know. Otherwise, we do it. So that's pretty much it about the tips at this stage. And just to mention and to let you rest assured that we do our social responsibility due, and it's not a due for us because we are really involved in local projects. We make these donations to this very little organization in a small town, in a small village in Transylvania, taking care of children who have a tough time getting to school and have a tough time getting help with the books and clothes and so on. This is Meschendorf's Kinder. It's very close to our route, this little village. And we climate compensate the flights. You have the chance to climate compensate if you wish as well with us. And all these funds go to the Attenborough Forest. So we plant trees, basically. And then there's the bat nursery in Bistrica we've recently discovered, and some donations go there as well to take care of the little bats. Right, that's pretty much all about what I had to say. And yeah, I would like to say mulțumesc in Romanian. Thank you so much for your attention. Let me quickly address two uncomfortable questions that usually are the COVID situation. We've talked about that a little bit already. So no compulsory, no requirement for vaccination, but be prepared that if there are in place, again, some restrictions, there might be requirements, and we do recommend it as well. So the COVID vaccine, we do recommend it. Of course, we comply with all the health and safety requirements. We also can mention that we have an almost in-house competence. Our mother is a medical doctor, and we usually, when we have challenges throughout our trips, we consult with her, and you are in good hands. We're also trained in first aid, local guides first aid, so you're safe with us. Now, regarding the other more or less uncomfortable question is the Ukraine war. In which way it affects Romania? I say in no way other than it affects other countries in the EU or in NATO, because Romania, as I said, is a NATO member and the EU member. There's no refugee crisis. The only thing that you might notice is that there are some cars with registration plates, some more cars with Ukrainian registration plates than usual, because we do have some refugees in Romania, and they are at this point already integrated and trying to live as normal as possible regarding the situation. So that being said, thank you so much for your attention.